if we are being visited by some sort of non-human intelligence, if they are here because of this moment, this peak moment in human history, I think we have to assume that they come here with some kind of specific intent. It's not just general interest or they just want to see or take a peek. I mean, if that were true, then the phenomena in the world would be minimal, would be temporary in nature, and it would end. Their presence here is pervasive, it's longstanding, and it's very secretive. We have some serious work to do to lay out the spectrum of what the alien intent might be and begin to create a zone of high probability that we can begin to hang our hats on and say, as the native peoples of this world, there's a high chance that this is what they're doing, why they're here, and how we should respond. There are other possibilities, and we can consider those, but they are lower probability. And here I put forward kind of a spectrum. On the far side of the spectrum is the highly altruistic extraterrestrial visitor who is really here to save us out of some sense of duty or sense of divine purpose or goodwill, pure faith goodwill. They don't seek to manipulate us in any negative fashion. They have no personal agenda or personal prerogative to gain any sort of resource or acquisition from us. They're here to help. Pure and simple, that's it. And then on the very other far side of the spectrum is the invasion elimination scenario. This world is so valuable, so rare, we're destroying it so fast, they simply want it from us, and they're going to take it. And then in between those two extremes are a range of other possibilities. And I would advocate that we begin to consider, based upon observed phenomena, our understanding of nature, human history, and our use of plain logic and caution as well, because we have a lot to lose in this scenario. We're the natives of the world. They're the visitors. They may have been observing us for a long time. We know nothing about them. And we clearly cannot match their technology. So we are the smaller player in this equation. And so that's why I recommend the zone of probability is not on the salvation side. I don't think it's on the invasion elimination side. I think it's more in this transactional or opportunistic or possibly an attempt to integrate with humanity or ultimately even colonize the human species. I think that is where the highest probability exists. And I think we need to start there. And starting there, we throw out this 50-50 argument. They're good, they're bad. It could be a benefit to humanity, it could be a threat to humanity. We don't know. I think we can begin to narrow the bounds of probability and establish some things that we do know, such that we can formulate an understanding and ultimately a set of actions as a human species regarding contact. I really do advocate that as we come into some awareness that it's possible a non-human intelligence is in the world, that intelligence is behind part of the UAP UFO phenomena, that we start out with a very cautious, risk-aware starting point in terms of the assessment we make. Risk equals threat times vulnerability times consequence. The only way that risk can be minimal is if our vulnerabilities are very low, and they're not. Look at our technology. Look at the attempt to surveil the human population. The capability is there. It could be used by another visiting force. Another visiting force could collaborate with any human entity for the purposes of their own agenda. And then also consequence. Consequence would have to be very low. Well, I think visitation with a technologically capable alien force that is able to evade almost all, if not all, of our military capabilities is a pretty consequential situation from a national security or world security perspective. And so in that equation, I think risk is possibly very high for the human race. Threat equals capability times intent times opportunity. The only way we could safely assume a friendly visitation and toss out the possibility of a threat is if the capabilities of the visitors are very minimal or very minimally displayed. They can do what we can do, maybe a little bit better, but not much better. That's not in any way the case. And then they would have to overwhelmingly demonstrate a positive intent. And I think the only way we can truthfully know their intent is through demonstration. And when you look at all the phenomena associated with their presence in the world, their interaction with military, which has been very high risk, they're possibly taking human citizens, civilians, against their will, that would be extremely high risk. Their manipulation in the psychic space of our world, promoting and spawning all of these narratives about extraterrestrial salvation, which are numerous in nature, I think that is possibly high risk. In fact, I don't think there's a whole lot of their behavior that signals positive intent. Very important here is because the ET has demonstrated such a high capability technologically, and also because the consequence of a negative contact event is so high for the human race, I think they would even more have to demonstrate a positive intent. The burden of proof is really on them. They would have to go above and beyond to show us we are here in a friendly fashion, we are requesting permission into your airspace, we acknowledge you are not a united world, therefore we will not interact with your militaries and governments in ways that promote division and a secret arms race between them. I don't see that happening at all. In fact, the secrecy surrounding their behavior and their collaboration with certain militaries, which is obviously going to promote conflict, it's only going to get under the skin of the human race, given how many long-standing conflicts we already have. Their behavior is so non-demonstrative, extra demonstrative of a beneficial intent, that I have to also then place extra underlines under high risk, high threat. We still need to develop a working hypothesis or assessment as to what the visitors are and why they're here. And I do not believe it is a 50-50 toss-up. It is not 100 shades of gray. It is maybe 5 to 10 shades of gray. We have enough information to begin to bound those possibilities into that zone of probability. We definitely need to uncover what we can know about that purpose and its agenda. And obviously we could do so by asking the visitors themselves. That doesn't seem to be possible, however. Either there's an obstruction at the level of our governments, or the ET visitors themselves are unwilling to disclose that. And so from there we go to other sources of information. We have to look at the observed phenomena, because behavior really does denote intent. How do you know what someone intends to do if they won't say so? Well, you look at what they're doing. And if what they're doing is demonstrably aggressive or negative or secretive or underhanded, then you start to form some sort of basis for understanding their intent. And that's what we need to do, because disclosure from the government is not coming of that. Disclosure from the ET presence is not coming of that. And so we need to garner some sort of starting assessment of their intent from another source. And this is where we look to the phenomena. We look to the sightings that are occurring, the evidence that's been presented. We look to these incidents of military interaction, the interaction with our nuclear sites and facilities, the very risky, high-risk altercations with civilian aircraft even. I mean, all of this does start to suggest some form of intent. With that, I think we can bring together our understanding of nature, how nature works, regarding how beings tend to interact, how species interaction takes place. And then with that, I think we also need to look at our own human history. And the reason is, it's not to project our own human understanding on the visitors and to say that they have to match what we know about how life works only. But it's that the human race is the only intelligent species we have ever been able to analyze over time. And so all of the behavioral sciences, all of the historical understanding we've generated is not just specific to our human identity, it's actually information regarding how intelligent species evolve, interact within themselves, and then ultimately develop complex societies. And so our own history of what I would call intervention, of how one force interacting with another works, is that the more powerful technological force almost always comes out on top. And when first contact does happen with a native population, it is definitely always with some sort of intent and agenda, and often one that is very self-serving and aggressive. And by and large, in human history, it has ended very, very poorly for the native peoples being discovered. I think that is an important analogy for us to take into consideration. I think, for myself, I will conclude that this event of contact is occurring. It is extraterrestrial in nature. It is pervasive, long-standing, and it is not a visitation. It is some kind of incursion into our world. And the nature of that incursion, the intent behind it, is almost certainly high risk to us, and it could be high threat. The visitors need to disclose their reasons for being here. This is another form of disclosure in addition to government disclosure. It is very different than that form of disclosure. The government cannot disclose the intent of the visitors. They may not know. So with that, thank you for watching. I hope maybe this provided some kind of logical framework to approach this bizarre enigma of possible alien contact, of the UFO UAP issue, and with that, help you in coming to some kind of working assessment for yourself. So with that, I'll say thank you, and I'll see you soon.